Sorry the lighting is not great and my acne is like this, but I'm gonna film anyways because I haven't uploaded in a really long time. So my particular narrative to how I realized I was trans doesn't really fit into the standard narrative, I feel like. So with that being said, let me just dive into my own experiences and maybe someone out there can relate. So I personally didn't start questioning my gender until about puberty, and I know a lot of younger kids will question their gender, but that just never happened to me. I did, however, feel like from a very young age that I did not fit in. And that isn't necessarily a trans thing because I know a lot of kids feel like they don't fit in. But I just remember constantly feeling that something was not right about me in relation to how I fit in with other people. Growing up, the only distinguishable difference in my head between a boy and a girl was that boys had penises and girls did not have penises. And I remember thinking, even from a very young age, oh, I should have a penis, why don't I have a penis? And it didn't really connect that I wanted to be a boy until I started going through puberty. I just knew that I wanted to pee standing up and that I should have had this organ that I did not have. And those were the very first signs of gender dysphoria that I felt. Fast forward to puberty, around 11 or 12, I started developing breasts. They were very small, but I started developing. And I did not like it at all. It freaked me out. I did not want it to happen. I just wanted to stay a kid because I didn't know that I could transition to be a boy, even though back then I couldn't have anyways. So I just wanted to stay put, stay where I was. But the changes kept happening. Eventually I got my period and I was just, I hated it. I hated it so much. I hated my body and I just thought, well, all girls hate their bodies, so I'm gonna grow out of this. Everybody's telling me I'm gonna grow out of hating my body, so I'll just hang on. In 10th grade, I pretty much was almost fully developed and I just hated it. I started getting anxiety and panic attacks and depression so bad. And at this point, I had repressed that it was because I wanted to be a boy, and I just thought that I hated my body. I felt like if I was more normal, then I wouldn't hate myself so much, and that if I was more normal, that I would be accepted by other people, and I would be happier, and these feelings would go away. I overcompensated with femininity because I needed to feel normal, so I would wear dresses, I would wear makeup, I had long hair, I presented very femininely. I liked girls, and that was about the only thing about me that was queer, I guess. I don't know. Like, I never really was butch or anything like that. For me, my dysphoria came 100% from not liking the secondary sex characteristics on my body. And then what stemmed from that is that how other people perceived me. They saw these secondary sex characteristics, they registered in their mind that I was a girl, referred to me as a girl, put me in female social roles, all of that stuff, and I hated it. I hated it so much. I was just so uncomfortable and miserable all the time. And that's what dysphoria is. And I feel like there's this narrative going around that you're trans if you don't fit into a certain gender role, or if you're a girl and you cut your hair, or if you're a guy and you like girly things, you could be trans or non-binary. I don't think that that necessarily is what makes you trans or non-binary. And I'm not making this video to say you have to have dysphoria to be trans because I know there's a whole debate, but in my personal experience, dysphoria is what made me transition. I was never gender non-conforming outwardly, but inwardly I very much felt like I was supposed to be born male, and I was very dysphoric about my body. I was very dysphoric about not having a penis. I was very dysphoric about not being able to date girls as a guy, and it really ruined me. I couldn't be friends with guys because I would get too jealous. I would get jealous of their bodies. I would get jealous of the way they got to interact with people. It got to the point where I had to isolate myself because I could not interact out in the world as a female anymore. That was just not for me. I couldn't do it without getting extreme amounts of anxiety and just this deep sadness. I started drinking a lot, and that the year before I had the realization that I was going to transition because that's what I needed to do. I started drinking a lot to numb the feelings. I started doing all sorts of unhealthy coping mechanisms that I'm not going to get into here. But I was just a shell of a person. I wasn't my full self. And I would just go to bed every night just praying that these feelings would go away. It's really interesting because when I was around 11, 12, 13, I would go to bed at night praying that I would wake up as a boy in a male body, a cis male. I wanted to be a cis male so bad. From 14 onward until I started my transition, I would pray that I would wake up and just these feelings would go away and I could live as a cis girl. It all just revolved around me wanting to be cis because that was what I viewed as normal. Being trans is hard. It's a hard life. And I mean, I think you can have trans pride and trans positivity while still acknowledging that it's a very hard life. And honestly, I'm still working through that right now. The fact that I'll never be cis and that I'm trans and that I am very well into my transition to the point of no return, and I'm making my peace with that. There wasn't one big realization moment for me that I was like, oh, I'm trans. It was more years and years of working through all of this shame and this discomfort. And I rushed into hormones. I really did. And I know that sounds like I'm saying I regret it. I don't regret transitioning. I'm very happy to be where I am. I'm very grateful. However, I do advise that you really do think about if this is really, really, really what you want to do, because it is a very hard life. I don't think I could have waited, though, now that I'm thinking about it, because I was just at a breaking point in my life where I was barely functioning. My grades were horrible. I didn't have a job. I was just bare minimum functioning. I needed to transition. And that's why I guess I wish there were more resources or more treatments than just transitioning for gender dysphoria, at least short term, just to give you a little bit of time to clear your head mentally and think about if you really want to do something so irreversible to your body for the rest of your life. Because yeah, I can't have biological children now. I won't ever be free of my gender dysphoria. It's not like you transition and your gender dysphoria disappears. You still always have it. It just gets better and more bearable. And this sounds sad, but it's not. It's just, it is what it is. And this is my life, this is my journey, and I've made my peace with it. And I am so much happier now. I really am. I am so much happier now than I was before I started my transition. I can look in the mirror and not feel disgust. I can look in the mirror and not see a stranger looking back at me. I can go out and interact with people and not feel insecure or like I'm not my real self. I can go out and interact with people and feel like they're seeing me for who I am. I really just bridged the disconnect between my brain and my body. I didn't bridge it perfectly because there are still parts that I'm very dysphoric about. There's still a lot that I struggle with, but overall I'm very happy with what I've done and the progress I've made and how transitioning has made me feel. So yeah, that's my story. If you guys want to leave in the comments how you realized you were trans, how you decided that transitioning was the best path for you, I would love to read your stories. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a great day.